What's going on? My name is Nikolai. I help start Red Star Community Center. I do a lot of the classes here. Today
We're going to be reading and discussing Combat Liberalism by Mao Zedong. We stand for active ideological struggle because it is a weapon for ensuring unity within the party and the revolutionary organizations in the interest of our fight. Every communist and revolutionary should take up this weapon. But liberalism rejects ideological struggle and stands for unprincipled peace, thus giving rise to a decadent Philistine attitude and bringing about political degeneration in certain units and individuals in the party and revolutionary orgs. Liberalism manifests itself in various ways. To let things slide for the sake of peace and friendship when a person has clearly gone wrong, and refrain from principled argument because he is an old acquaintance, a fellow townsman, a schoolmate, a close friend, a loved one, an old colleague, or an old subordinate. Or to touch on the matter lightly instead of going into it thoroughly so as to keep on good terms. The result is that both the organization and the individual are harmed. This is one type of liberalism. To indulge in irresponsible criticism in private instead of actively putting forward one suggestion to the organization. To say nothing to people to their face, but to gossip behind their backs, or to say nothing at a meeting but gossip afterwards. To show no regard at all for the principles of collective life, but to follow one's own inclination. This is a second type. To let things drift if they do not affect one personally. To say as little as possible while knowing perfectly well what is wrong. To be worldly wise and play safe and seek only to avoid blame. This is a third type. Not to obey orders, but to give pride of place to one's own opinions. To demand special consideration from the organization, but to reject its discipline. This is a fourth type. To indulge in personal attacks, pick quarrels, vent personal spite, or seek revenge instead of entering into an argument and struggling against incorrect views for the sake of unity or progress or getting the work done properly. This is a fifth type. To hear incorrect ideas without rebutting them, or even to hear counter-revolutionary remarks without reporting them, but instead to take them calmly as if nothing had happened. This is a sixth type. To be among the masses and fail to conduct propaganda and agitation, or speak at meetings, or conduct investigations and inquiries among them, and instead to be indifferent to them and show no concern for their well-being, forgetting that one is a communist and behaving as if one were an ordinary non-communist. This is a seventh type. To see someone harming the interests of the masses and yet not feel indignant or dissuade or stop him or reason with him, but to allow him to continue. This is an eighth type. To work half-heartedly without definite plan or direction, to work perfunctorily and muddle along. So long as one remains a monk, one goes on tolling the bell. This is a ninth type. To regard oneself as having rendered great service to the revolution, to pride oneself on being a veteran, to disdain minor assignments, while being quite unequal to major tasks. To slipshod in work and slack in study. This is a 10th type. To be aware of one's own mistakes and yet make no attempt to correct them, taking a liberal attitude towards oneself. This is an 11th type. We can name more, but these 11 are the principal types. They are manifestations of liberalism. Liberalism is extremely harmful in a revolutionary collective. It is a corrosive which eats away unity, undermines cohesion, causes apathy, and creates dissension. It robs the revolutionary ranks of compact organization and strict discipline, prevents policies from being carried through, and alienates the party organizations from the masses, which the party leads. It is an extremely bad tendency. Liberalism stems from petty bourgeois selfishness. It places personal interest first and the interest of the revolution second. Thus, and this gives rise to an ideological, political, and organizational liberalism. People who are liberals look upon the principles of Marxism as abstract dogma. They approve of Marxism, but are not prepared to practice it or practice it in full. They are not prepared to replace their liberalism with Marxism. These people have their Marxism, but have their liberalism as well. They talk Marxism, but practice liberalism. They apply Marxism to others, but liberalism to themselves. They keep both kinds of goods in stock and find a use for each. This is how the minds of certain people work. Liberalism is a manifestation of opportunism and conflicts fundamentally with Marxism. It is negative and objectively has the effect of helping the enemy. That is why the enemy welcomes its preservation in our midst. Such being its nature, there should be no place for it in the ranks of the revolution. We must use Marxism, which is positive in spirit, to overcome liberalism, which is negative. A communist should have the largest of a mind. He should be staunch and active, looking upon the interests of the revolution as his very life, and subordinating his personal interests to those of the revolution. Always and everywhere, he should adhere to the principle and wage a tireless struggle against all incorrect ideas and actions, so as to consolidate the collective life of the party and strengthen the ties between the party and the masses. He should be more concerned about the party and the masses than any private person, and more concerned about others than himself. Only thus can he be considered a communist. All loyal, honest, active, and upright communists must unite to oppose liberal tendencies shown by certain people among us, and to set them on the right path. This is one of the tasks of our ideological front. In Combat Liberalism, Mao is talking about the specific attitudes that are born out of liberalism. We'd like to highlight some of them and go over in more detail how they can harm organizing efforts. Now, no matter how straightforward this advice might seem, we should all be cautious, because especially those of us that live in the imperial core don't truly understand how much we've been infected by these types of attitudes in our personal lives and in organizing. Organizing can be something that's very emotionally taxing, especially in a society that breeds individuality and apathy, so it's important that we understand that these attitudes can take root in all of us. Now, with number 1, to let things slide for the sake of peace and friendship, it's a huge issue that we see time and time again in smaller organizations. As with anything that you spend a large part of your day doing, you're going to make friends if you're not already friends. Oftentimes, this can cloud our judgment and lead to a degradation of principles. This can happen a lot, and especially in smaller organizations, can end up dominating decision-making and push out even correct ideas. With number 2, again, these things can be especially harmful in smaller organizations. Everything should be brought up in meetings, so everyone has adequate time to prepare for any discussion that needs to take place. Any kind of side discussions are not only harmful, but they're the exact type of politics that we see in DC, something that we should be striving to be in direct opposition to. Now, with number 4 and 5, again, it seems very straightforward, but we don't truly understand how infectious these attitudes are, especially in the imperial core. However, we must strive to be better and evolve past our current conditions, especially if we want to effect change down the road. And for the sake of the video, we're going to skip to number 10 before we end with number 9. So with number 10, to pride oneself on being a veteran, to disdain minor assignments, this is something that's especially prevalent in non-Marxist organizations. Oftentimes, organizers who have been around for a while, and they might work hard, get a sort of tunnel vision, and don't take a step back to see how they can improve. With that clouded point of view, they can oftentimes be arrogant when people outside of organizing spaces suggest ideas or criticism, feeling like new people don't know what they're talking about. It is up to us to have an outlet for everyone to voice their concerns or ideas, and for us to address them properly, either by implementing them or disagreeing with them in an articulate and insightful way. Number 9 might be one of the single most important things on this list. The left absolutely has to stop doing things that they think they're supposed to do and really ask themselves, what are we here to accomplish, and how do we do this most effectively? This spans anywhere from outreach to internal meetings. Every movement should have a purpose, and every second we should strive to be as efficient as possible in completing our tasks. We absolutely need to start behaving in the most professional manner that we can. And if we are really going to fight an ideological battle against the most organized class in history, we can only win this with the utmost discipline.
If you liked our video, please consider following us here and on Instagram. Consider donating to our Patreon. And if you're ever in Las Vegas, come to our exclusive in-person classes.